Good morning. Just making a short video to explain how to access your comments back from me and to go through the plagiarism assignment. It's very important in this class to go back and read the comments that I give to you on these assignments so that you can use them to develop your work throughout the semester. Okay, so what's going to end up happening each time I grade something is that you're going to get this red dot here, and it'll note that you've been given a grade back. And the grade, by the way, which gets posted in here, gets rounded for some reason, but you'll see the actual grade once you get to the grade book. Note that the first assignment here is dropped, and this one's also going to be dropped. Basically, the lowest score that you get gets dropped from each of these categories. But the other thing that you'll note is that there's no way to get to any comments here. All right. So what you need to do instead is to go to the Dropbox. Now, once you're at the Dropbox, I'm looking at this the way that you would see this. You'll note that there is a view link right here to feedback from the professor, and you'll want to click on that. Note, we can see who has gone to view the comments and who hasn't. So it's a good idea to actually go to the comments to show that you are invested in using your professor's feedback to develop your writing in the class. But okay, so what you're going to see here is the original document you submitted and the Turnitin similarity report. This is what you need to click in order to get to the interface to see your comments. And you'll see that I was practicing with this before I did this video. But basically, you go into this interface where, at least on mine, I still have the option to return to the classic view, which is how I prefer it. It's just easier for me to use that. But let's go through both of these. So when you first get here, you're going to note that any of the plagiarism or anything that's been taken directly from a source is going to be highlighted red. And so here you have this option to hide the similarity layer. But before we do that, I want to show you, you're in here, right? That's showing you that 99% of this is plagiarized. And the reason is because you'll see that I just posted the assignment back to the Dropbox to show what it would look like if you actually did copy and paste stuff. But two, you can also go through here and get a link to all of the different sources that could have potentially been used in the plagiarism. And you can actually filter your own response, your own view, so that you can exclude the actual quotations or the bibliography to see just how many things were taken word for word, or you can exclude other things to see how much you're quoting. A good rule for quoting is that you should be quoting about 10% for 90% of your own analysis. So let's say you have a 1,511 word count. Then if you just exclude everything except for the quotations, then I guess you would want to have about 150 words quoted, 10%. But okay. Let's say you don't even want to see that. And I think it's easier not to see this when you actually go to see the comments. Now, in order to see the comments, you have to click on comments up here so that you can actually read my feedback. And you'll get, you have to click on the comment, I guess. In order to see it. And so, I comment on everything from grammar to citation, to how well you are actually responding to the assignment. Now, the other way to see this, at least is still an option for me, is to return to the classic view. And I want to do that just to kind of show you both worlds, I guess. And then you can choose for yourself which one you prefer to use. I was told by the IT moderator that we were going to stop using the classic altogether, but it's still available, so I'm going to milk it for all that it's worth while it still is. But here it's slightly different of an interface. You'll start with the originality report. You get a few less options for how you want to filter things, but you can kind of play around with it to see that a lot of the same kinds of options are available. They're just in different places, right? So actually, no, you get the exact same amount. They're just in different places, and you just have to kind of move around a little bit more to find them. But here, I like this interface while I'm grading because I have a bunch of comments here that I have already made. Anyway, let's look at the actual assignment and talk about the way to interpret my comments. But also really just, what was supposed to happen in this assignment. I asked that you write a 5-paragraph essay where you explained the concepts and, discuss what made them similar and different, and had 3 paragraphs in the middle that looked at the examples and discussed whether or not they were plagiarizing, and finally ended with an overall statement of what you took away from the assignment. And so the way that I graded this was that I was looking to see how well you were explaining the concepts, whether or not you were actually kind of bringing in examples in your explanations. Those kinds of things strengthen the score. If you had any of these incorrect, if you responded or if you misdiagnosed what was happening in the student writing, that did not lower your score. As long as everything was explained well and you backed up your explanations with some kind of, like source or analysis of the source. But okay, let's go through these. So the first example is actually an example of patch writing, because the student does name the source, so he or she is not cheating. But notice that a lot of the language is taken almost exactly, but changed around a little bit. So patch writing is just when you just change a few words. So adult criminals and youth involved in illegal activities became adults and youth involved in criminal activity. So criminal got moved around to closer to activity. Adults and youth basically just added an S to adults. And illegal got dropped or turned into criminal, and difficult became easy to obtain. My guns are easy to obtain, not difficult. Illegal transactions are the main source of guns used. Illegal transactions are the primary source. I mean, it's just almost exact, but the student just changed a few words around. The second example is actually not plagiarized, but some students often recognize that some words actually do carry over. So transmitting becomes transmit, earpiece carries over. And so it does kind of look like some of the words are just changed around, but actually the issue with patch writing is that the sentence structure is almost exactly the same here, whereas this student really has changed the sentence structure. So they named the source. Lord and Clayton theorized that the supercomputers of tomorrow is, what they're doing is they're effectively creating a different kind of frame for the information, and they are guiding the information with their own sentence structure. So even though it's kind of close, they do change the sentence structure and the words enough. Now, it's interesting that Rebecca Moore Howard went on to become very famous with her discussions of plagiarism, and she herself actually said that about 90% of all writing is patch written. And she says that it's just almost impossible to not patch write when you're quoting and doing research, especially at extensive lengths, because so much of the original material is in your brain, and then when you go to write, you almost subconsciously do it. So to be fair, it's actually really hard not to patch write, but there's a good faith effort that professors are looking for, and there's just an understanding that you're going to do what you can to come up with your own way of saying things. So even if a word or two kind of carries over, that's not the issue. It's just that full sentence structures can't carry over. All right, finally, the last example is an example of non-attribution. And here I think Rebecca Moore Howard gets it wrong a little bit. She says that non-attribution is when you don't cite And when you take language word for word, but you don't put quotation marks, well, if you're not citing and you're taking something word for word, I mean, you're just cheating. So actually, I think what she means is that there's a difference. You are citing, right, worthy claims that, and so you're citing the source, but you're taking the language word for word without putting quotation marks around it. So you're not attributing the actual language that you're taking. So notice players of violent video games are not simply passive viewers of realistically depicted violence, is exactly taken word for word. Players of violent video games are not simply passive viewers of realistically depicted violence. The student merely changed the capital P to a lowercase p and added these three words because the last sentence is also taken word for word. So I wanted to make this as an example as, to show that the distinction is that all of this is taken word for word exactly without having put the quotation marks around it. With quotation marks, technically this would not be plagiarism. So this could be an error or the student doesn't really know the rule, etc. But yeah, the student does name the source, so it's not cheating. And the student just takes the language word for word, so this is non-attribution. Okay, go back, review my comments, look at the assignment. If you have any questions, let me know. Ideally, we are all on the same page with regard to plagiarism in this class. There were some great takeaways from the assignment, and we are going to be diligently, not copying and pasting, obviously, but coming up with our own ways to explain the material. Best of luck.